Can you believe it? The US now wants tourists to put down as much as $15,000 just to visit. Not to live here, not to work, just to come for a short trip. That's the new plan. The Trump administration claims this will help control immigration by forcing visitors to pay massive upfront cash bonds. But here's the thing. People are already avoiding the US travel here is expensive, the rules are complicated, and the experience often feels unwelcoming. And now this?
Canadian Airlines are taking away flights to popular U.S. cities. This after many Canadian vacationers apparently are avoiding the U.S. entirely.
But tourism to the U.S. is on the decline. The U.S. is set to lose $12.5 billion because of it. Traveler spending here is already down 22.5%. That's from last year.
Instead of addressing the real issues, the administration is squeezing more money out of a tourism industry that's already shrinking. It's like charging people to join a party that no one's showing up to in the first place. Not long ago, Trump tried to block Chinese students from entering the country, and it blew up in his face. The backlash was so strong, the policy was quietly rolled back. Now we're seeing the same playbook. Zambia and Malawi are among the first countries affected. Mexico and several South American nations are already under tighter restrictions, and more could be added soon. Meanwhile, other destinations, like Europe and Asia, are making it easier than ever to visit. No cash bonds, no headaches, just open doors. So why is the US choosing to shut people out? In this video, we'll break down how the tourist bond actually works, why it's causing so much damage, and what it means for the future of US tourism. Before we dive in, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us keep these stories coming. In early August 2025, the US government rolled out a new visa policy that caught a lot of people off guard. Visitors from certain countries will now be required to pay a refundable bond, up to $15,000, just to apply for a tourist or business visa. These are the B1 and B2 visas, typically used for short trips like family visits, sightseeing, or attending meetings. The idea is targeted at countries the US says have high rates of visa overstays. If you're from one of those nations, you could be asked to pay thousands of dollars up front, before your application is even reviewed. Officials say the bond is meant to encourage visitors to follow the rules. But it's hard to ignore how steep the price is, especially when fewer people are visiting the US in the first place. Many international travelers are heading elsewhere, places that feel more welcoming and easier to navigate. According to the US Travel Association, visits to the US dropped by 14% in just 1 year, while countries like Spain and Thailand saw a rise in tourism. So what's the logic behind making travel to America even more expensive and complicated right now? It feels less like a security measure and more like an extra barrier, one that could push even more visitors away. A $15,000 deposit doesn't send a message of openness. It sends a message that you're not trusted the moment you apply. This visa bond idea isn't entirely new. It actually dates back to Trump's first term, around 2020. His administration floated a similar proposal then, but it never got off the ground, partly because the COVID-19 pandemic shifted priorities. Now that he's back in office in 2025, many of those earlier immigration ideas are being dusted off and pushed forward again. And this one is at the top of the list. The bond is just one piece of a broader effort to make immigration and travel more restrictive. Over the years, Trump has introduced travel bans, tightened visa interview requirements, and even added a $250 visa integrity fee for certain applicants. These policies weren't random. They were aimed at reducing the number of people coming into the US, particularly from countries his administration views as risky. But there's something else happening alongside the bond rollout. Around the same time, the administration announced a new Gold Card program. It's designed for wealthy foreigners who want faster, easier access to the US, offering benefits in exchange for large investments and tax incentives. If you have money, you're welcomed with open arms. If you don't, you're asked to pay a massive deposit just to be considered. What's taking shape now is a system with two very different paths, one built for the wealthy and another full of obstacles for everyone else. And that raises a bigger question. Are these policies really about border control, or are they just ways to generate revenue under the label of security? Let's take a closer look at how this bond system actually works. If you're from one of the designated countries, a U.S. consular officer can require you to pay a $5,000, $10,000, or even $15,000 bond when you apply for a tourist or business visa. The decision depends on several factors: how often people from your country overstay their visas, your travel history, education level, and your stated purpose for visiting. But much of this is left to the officer's personal judgment. And when decisions are that subjective, outcomes can vary wildly from case to case. In 2024, more than 60% of B2 visa applicants from Ghana were denied, even with complete paperwork. That kind of rejection rate raises serious concerns about consistency and fairness in how these rules are applied. And it doesn't stop there. These visas are extremely limited. They're single entry, valid for only 3 months, and most visitors are allowed to stay just 30 days. On top of that, travelers must enter through only 3 specific airports. While the bond is technically refundable, there's no clear process for how or when the money gets returned. Given how slow and bureaucratic U.S. systems can be, a lot of applicants worry they may never get it back. This approach doesn't feel like it's about enforcing rules. It feels like it's about gatekeeping. The U.S. isn't just asking for paperwork anymore, it's asking for large sums of money. And the message is clear. If you're from the wrong country or can't afford the price tag, don't bother. For many, this policy isn't just a barrier, it's a statement. It says, you're not trusted, you're not welcome, but we'll still take your money. The visa bond policy is just one part of a much bigger shift. The U.S. isn't just tightening entry rules, it's pulling back from the world. And it's doing that by putting a price tag on who gets to visit. Since the policy was announced, travel agencies across multiple countries have reported a wave of cancellations. Tourists are changing their plans and looking elsewhere. Industry experts say platforms like Expedia could see travel interest from Southeast Asia drop by 20% or more as people choose destinations that are more welcoming and less expensive. That shift is already being felt. Hotels, tour operators, and travel businesses in the U.S. are sounding the alarm. With visitor numbers declining again, this bond requirement could push them even lower. Right now, the rule applies to 23 countries, but that list could grow fast. 50 countries next year? More after that? If this trend continues, visiting the U.S. might soon require a security deposit just to snap a photo in Times Square. What's happening here isn't about safety. It's about control, using money as a filter for who gets in and who stays out. Let's look at the numbers. The U.S. government expects this program to impact about 2,000 visa applicants during its pilot phase. If every one of them pays the full bond and eventually gets it refunded, that's roughly $20 million temporarily held by the government. It might sound like a lot, but in reality, it isn't. This isn't income. It's a deposit. If visitors follow the rules, they're supposed to get that money back. So the U.S. isn't earning anything here. It's just holding on to cash, like a cautious landlord waiting to see if you damage the apartment. And that's only if everyone manages to navigate the paperwork to claim their refund. On top of that, the program isn't cheap to run. It adds extra forms, payment processing through systems like pay.gov, and more work for consular staff. According to the Federal Register, just processing the application adds about $47.60 per person. And that doesn't include labor, security, or administrative overhead. So when you do the math, this policy isn't financially smart. It's just messy and inefficient. Even before this bond policy came into play, U.S. tourism was already on the decline, especially during the Trump years. Since 2017, fewer and fewer international visitors have been choosing the U.S. as a destination. The reasons aren't a mystery. Tougher entry rules, more intense interviews, longer wait times, and rising visa rejection rates have all made the process harder. Now, with the bond requirement added to the mix, the situation is only getting worse. Travel agents in Asia and Africa are already reporting cancellations. Families who once planned trips to Disneyland or conferences in New York are shifting their plans to other destinations. Countries like Canada, those in Europe, and across Southeast Asia are now seeing the benefits of America's new reputation: expensive, strict, and uninviting. And this isn't just anecdotal. The U.S. Travel Association reports that rising costs and restrictive policies have made the U.S. one of the priciest countries to visit. For travelers from places like China, Nigeria, India, or Haiti, a typical tourist trip can now cost nearly $20,000 up front, not including hotels or meals. That financial hit is already showing up in the data. The U.S. economy is expected to lose $12.5 billion in international travel spending this year alone. For airlines, hotels, restaurants, and small businesses that depend on tourism, that's a serious setback. So the question becomes, why would anyone choose this? Why spend that kind of money to be treated with suspicion, tracked throughout your stay, and possibly denied another chance if anything goes wrong? While the U.S. government focuses on building barriers, financial and otherwise, life on the ground tells a different story. Across the country, towns and cities are struggling. Not because too many people are coming in, but because too few are. From hotel staff shortages in Florida to restaurants scaling back shifts in California, from farms in Iowa to shuttered shops in small-town Michigan, the common thread is a shrinking workforce. Immigrants and tourists, often blamed in political debates, have quietly kept large parts of the economy running, especially in rural areas and smaller cities. They clean hotel rooms, serve food, harvest crops, run local shops, and keep services moving. Tourists, meanwhile, bring in money. They book taxis, buy souvenirs, eat out, and help small businesses stay afloat. But now, both the workers and the customers are disappearing. You can see it firsthand. Drive through the Midwest or the Deep South, and the signs are everywhere. Empty storefronts, help-wanted posters that haven't been taken down in months, restaurants shortening hours, and schools cutting back because there aren't enough kids. Local leaders often point to inflation, housing costs, or the lingering effects of the pandemic. But at the core, the issue is simple. There just aren't enough people. And those who might fill the gaps, migrant workers, foreign nurses, international visitors, are being turned away or discouraged from coming. Farmers in Texas and Georgia are struggling to find crews to harvest crops. Tourism hubs like Orlando and Las Vegas are losing business because travelers are going elsewhere. Even rural healthcare systems are feeling the strain with fewer nurses and support staff available. What makes it even harder to ignore is that many of the areas now facing these shortages are the same ones that pushed for stricter immigration rules. And now they're left dealing with the consequences. There's a tough truth behind all of this. Much of America's rise was built on immigration, on open doors, on welcoming workers, talent, and ideas from around the world. That openness helped shape the world's largest economy. But now, in a wave of fear and nationalism, those doors are closing, and the idea of the American dream is starting to fade. In 2025, that shift is becoming visible in ways that are hard to ignore. Several major international airlines have cut back or canceled routes to the U.S., citing unpredictable demand, higher operating costs, and a drop in business travel. The drop in international flights isn't only about declining ticket sales. It reflects a broader shift in how the U.S. is being viewed. Once considered one of the most valuable destinations for global travel, the country is now facing reduced demand as political tensions grow, border controls tighten, and concerns about stability increase. Even Latin American airlines like Avianca and LATAM have started cutting routes to major cities like Miami and Dallas, routes that had been consistently strong for years. Some of this comes down to rising airport fees and a weakening US dollar. But much of it has to do with uncertainty. Travelers are rethinking their plans, unsure of the experience that now awaits them. For airlines, scaling back service is a practical decision. But the effect goes far beyond flight schedules. Fewer flights mean fewer visitors, fewer business connections, and fewer opportunities for local economies. If America starts treating tourists like threats and opportunity like risk, what's really left of the American dream? To stay informed, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. See you in the next one.